Hi, I'm Mayor Warren, and today I am with the Department of Public Works Director, Marty Mays. Director Mays, I know your department is vast and has a number of divisions. Tell me what areas those divisions cover.
Engineering, parks and management, water, streets and parking, and all municipal buildings and fleet management, as well as property maintenance.
Let's just break that down now. The engineering department, I know in Orange, we try to hire firms so that we can cover a broad base of engineering from engineering with our water to our streets to declaring buildings uninhabitable. Tell me about some of the work that you do with our engineers. I know you worked recently with some engineers in our parks.
I worked recently with engineers in the parks, but one of the main things that I'm working on now with the engineer is making our streets a lot safer. We've gone out and we identified the various areas and traffic signals and striping, anything to deal with safety of our residents. We're working on that, and that's one of my big initiatives. That's I'm going to be moving forward within the next year, providing more speed humps, making sure that when you walk our streets as a pedestrian, you're safe.
Many times we get calls from our residents regarding installation of street signs, of traffic signals, of traffic signs. They want speed bumps. Is all of that part of the engineering component?
Yes, that's a big part of it. It's not all of it, but it definitely is a part of it. And it's very important that we focus in on that part. And that's been a big issue over the last year. And also, the engineer also works on signage. Signage is another issue that we've been working on. You'll begin to see a lot of changes in the different signs. Some of the intersections that we consider dangerous, they'll be signed. Um, so
And
we're
what's the time frame for that process? I know many people are concerned about crosswalk signs, and you're working with the Department of Planning in terms of safe routes to school where they have directional signs and so forth. What's the time frame for that?
the time frame for that is now. You
Oh,
see
great.
a lot of that stuff that's taking place. For example, on Duane Street, we installed the speed hump and various new signage. And we also did some work down at the Valley and Forest. You'll begin to see more and more projects like that. And the engineer is vital to that because he signs off on all those things. We want to make Orange safer for the residents.
Tell me about some of the parks management issues that you get into. We have parks in every ward in our city. They have to be managed and maintained. Tell me what your role is there.
My role with the parks is to basically oversee and have knowledge about everything that's going on in the park. I want to say that within the last year, we now have an open space tax.
Tell me about that. That's a funding mechanism that you use to maintain and upgrade in the parks?
Right. That is like the mayor said, it's a funding mechanism. It has enhanced the development of the parks because it's been an infusion of dollars. We've been able to couple those dollars with a lot of the grants that we already utilized to get real progress in our parks. And we've also utilized grants solely to enhance our parks. There's several different park projects going on right now. We have received a grant for $1.2 million. We're going to be enhancing Military Park. We
That's right on at the end of Main Street, almost at the East Orange border.
Right. Military Park is a historic park which sits off of Main Street, and basically it's a gateway park because it's an entrance into the city from East Orange. So we want to beautify that, and also it's a park where we honor our veterans. And right now it needs a little bit of work. We want to make it more cohesive. We want to beautify it. We want to reimagine it so that when you come in from the one of the major gateways in the city, you'll see something that's really spectacular. The goal is to go out to bid with this project sometime in September and have the project kick off definitively in the spring of 2023.
Director Mays, in terms of one of our most important resources is our water, and you have a hand in managing or overseeing the management of the water resource. Tell us about how you work with our water management company, Veolia, in terms of managing our water. Is that your responsibility to oversee them?
Yes, it is. I work with the administration at Veolia to make sure that the needs of anybody coming into the city that has something to do or needs something with the water, making sure that it gets processed in terms of disconnections, connections,
So if I'm a
tapping.
developer and I want to build something in town, do I have to come to your department
Yes, you do.
and you would give me a permit to tap into the water source?
And I also would tell you what specific fees are due, process that exchange of monies, and move the project forward.
Excellent. Tell me about our parks in terms of our pools, upgrading our pools. Are you on a schedule with those for each of our three pools in town?
Yes, the three pools in town, two of them have been revamped and renovated. The one that I'm working on now is Colgate Park. At the end of this season, pool season, Colgate Park will undergo a complete renovation, about $350,000 renovation, which will mean that all of the pools in the city are and definitely will be in great shape. Um, I think that's important, that to have the pools up and running every pool season. It's good for our kids.
Marty, the parking and the streets, these are big issues in the city. You are responsible for parking, and now I know that we've discussed a parking authority. Tell me where that legislation is at this point, which would manage the parking and create more parking throughout the city.
The parking authority is right now with the council. We are waiting for council approval, and I know that Chris Hartwick, the business administrator, is working on that. And it's something that's important to the city because we have various parking problems throughout the city. It would be nice to have somebody managing that on a full-time basis.
And part of the recommendation, or part of the reason why you made the recommendation for the parking authority, is that they're able to actually build garages and parking lots that'll be useful to our residents.
Well, one of the things with the parking lots and the garages is the downtown area. We want to bring that back, and it would be great to have a sole entity working on those specific lots full time in order to bring them up to code and be able to move Orange forward. Definitely on Main Street, which is a vital economic engine.
Residential streets, potholes, decrepit streets haven't been paved in 10, 20, 30 years. Tell me about your paving schedule.
The paving schedule is probably one of the most important things that I deal with on a daily basis. Since you have been in, Mayor, we've paved roughly 60 to 70 streets. There's approximately 192 streets in the city of Orange, and we have a pavement management plan, which I am going to be updating in November We're in year 4 of the pavement management plan. But what happens so often is that we have to make changes in the streets based on the actual condition of the roads. So it's a fluid document. One of the other things that we want to do within the change in the pavement management plan is to hold community meetings and get more input from the residents.
So, Director Mays, the big question for a lot of our residents as I walk the city is, I need my street paved. How do I get on the paving list? What is the process to get my street on the list to be paved? I know just from experience in watching you deal with a lot of our residents and answering these kinds of questions, it's a very technical process. Who's involved in it?
The municipal engineers involved with it heavily. The roads on the pavement management plan have all been have all gone through an assessment in terms of the specific condition of the roads. Talks about any cracking, any sealing. It's a pretty detailed engineering analysis of each road.
So, Marty, in terms of getting these streets on the list, a lot of times I walk door to door and I walk with residents and they point out to me streets that are really in bad shape. And you get the calls from me, you and Raymond, and I call and say, I want this street done right now. Why isn't it that simple that you just can't take the mayor's directive and start paving a street?
It's not that simple, Mayor. What we do is we run each street through a technical review
Right.
in terms of the road condition, in
And who's
terms.
involved? Is that the engineers involved in that process? Now, the granting agencies like the DOT, the federal agencies, the Department of Transportation in the state, are those entities also involved in that review process?
All those entities are involved. Each grant is different, and each grant has its own specific set of rules that we have to follow in terms of making up the list for paving.
Now, I understand you've explained to me before that the Department of Environmental Protection has things when the street is covering a sewer drain and so forth, that there are utility issues, if there are utilities running under the streets. How do you get all of that process into one room to determine which streets should be paved?
Well, it's definitely a process. We get all the streets together and we actually rank them in terms of their condition, and we try to assess in what year we will be able to get it done or repave it.
And is there a way that neighbors could have some input or can ask you to come out to visit their street so you have more of a visual impact?
Absolutely, I go out and I visit all the time to the various streets. But one of the things that we want to do going forward is we want to get more input from the residents. So you'll see at the end of this paving season in November, we plan on having some um, sessions where we can involve the public and get their input.
Now, when streets are being paved, is it always the policy? I've tried to establish the policy, but is it always possible to pursue the policy where we pave the streets and we do this curbing and sidewalks?
Right. The policy that we've been following is we do complete curb replacement, sidewalk replacement, and paving. There are various other grants that just cover the sidewalk and the curbing. I think the mayor mentioned it earlier, the Safe Routes to School,
Right.
which is another grant that we're working on, in which the state is only going to provide monies for us to do sidewalk and curbing, and it's going to take place within 2 miles of Park Avenue School. All of the streets will have their curbing and sidewalk replaced. The state is actually hired inspectors that are out now. I've gotten a lot of calls from people that are see surveys on their street in that Cleveland Street area, Duane Street, 2 mile radius, which actually covers the whole city, but that's where most of the work will be surrounding the Park Avenue School.
In terms of property maintenance on throughout our neighborhoods, sometimes you see a vacant and abandoned house. You see it a lot less now, given the market and the activity and the rehabilitation activity. But there's still some areas where there are distressed properties. Is it your job to maintain those as well?
Yes, we maintain vacant and abandoned properties that are remain in disrepair. In most cases, we can't find the owner. Nobody's taking responsibility for the property. We go out, we cut, we clean those properties, we place a lien on those properties for the time and the work that we put in on the site. And
And you take some efforts to secure them as well. Do you also get liens on the properties for that as well?
yes, we secure, we board, we basically do what's necessary to secure the property.
Marty, with respect to the vacant and abandoned buildings, firstly, we have your cell phone number and your email address up. Should we add your deputy's number to that as well? 'Cause
Yes,
I want to give our residents an opportunity to be able to call and contact someone to report these issues so that they can be addressed. So we're going to add the deputy director Raymond Wingfield's cell phone number to that as well. Call them if you get a voicemail and it's full, or if they don't call you back. Again, I'm going to put my number up on the screen as well, and I guarantee that you'll get a call back. Marty Mays, once I get a resident to be able to call in to say that there is a problem house in my on my block in my neighborhood, what is the process of getting that property cleaned up and addressed?
the first thing that's done is we make sure that the property goes through the code enforcement
So,
department.
code enforcement inspector comes out, they issue the violations. Now, issuing the violation, does that now enable your department to go in to start the cleaning process?
Yes, it does. And it also gives us the green light to do whatever else is necessary on that property
Which
as
could mean
well.
boarding it up, which
Yes.
could mean securing it in other ways. In your position, though, you also have the authority under the law to mandate that that property be demolished.
Yes, I'm also the public officer for the city, and that's one of the functions that I deal with, as well as any property that needs to be demolished due to a fire or any other aspect.
And for that process, just so our residents are clear, there is a legal process you have to follow.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a legal process. I work with the law department and make sure that they are aware of every step of what I'm doing. And
You have to put the person on notice.
yes,
You have to give them the opportunity to respond.
yes,
They can have a hearing and give you evidence if they want, and then you make a final determination.
absolutely.
And your determination could be that the city will demolish and put a lien, or you give them an opportunity to demolish.
Yes, I deal with that all the time.
I do have to admit, Marty, the buildings like City Hall, even our courts and police department, certainly Brook Alley, are aged buildings. Their lifespan has run. We've really gotten a lot of use out of them. Your department has been pretty innovative in terms of repairing to make them still suitable. But tell us a little bit about the future of public buildings.
Right now, we're working on various solutions that we could utilize to acquire or build um, new municipal buildings. Um, I'm working with the BA on a long-term improvement plan.
Now, so that capital improvement plan, will that include financing, architectural, engineering, all the sources that we need?
Yes, it will. Um, I know he's got some ideas and I have some ideas, and we're trying to work together to see what we could do moving forward in the future.
Now, I just want to be clear, the school buildings, the library building is handled by the library board,
Yes,
and school buildings, while they're public buildings, they're not city buildings. Those are Board of Education buildings,
yes,
and we don't really deal with those.
right.
Now, does this capital improvement plan, this long range plan, also include um, buildings at each of our parks as well, community centers at our parks as well?
Yes, we are looking at all of the um, buildings in the parks. You're familiar that we actually rebuilt the Upper Central Playground because the structure that was there prior to that had lived a long life and was
Yeah.
no longer able to. We were no longer able to utilize it. So you'll see projects like that as well in the parks. We want to make sure that the parks are safe for our kids, that they have proper plumbing, lighting, all those things are important. And we want to make sure that we continue to utilize the parks that we have.
Excellent. And then finally, you are in charge of fleet management. We have a number of cars, trucks, and other equipment throughout the town. Tell me about that.
Well, the fleet management part of my job is something that's pretty vital as well, mainly when it comes to snow removal. For example, in Public Works, years and years ago, we didn't have enough equipment to fight snowstorms. And at this point, we've built up our fleet substantially, not only in terms of snow equipment, but in terms of police and
But while
fire.
you're on snow equipment, you built a salt dome.
Right.
You built a service station where gas and diesel are available for the fleet as well.
Right. One of the things that we're doing is we're trying to improve the Brook Alley Public Works garage. There's been various upgrades to the garage, which you spoke about the salt dome, which was vital and critical for Orange to be able to fight
Yeah.
storms. We have a new gas station or gas tank installation at the Brook Alley garage. And one of the other things that we're working on right now, this winter, we're going to introduce brine to the snow fighting efforts for the city.
Excellent.
So we are going to be spreading brine. We've ordered all of our equipment. Most of it is in. We're going to have a huge tank down at the garage, and we're going to be putting out the brine 24 hours before every snowstorm, which really should help to make sure that our streets are safe in the
Absolutely.
winter.
So, Director, besides your own Department of Public Works, vehicles, and equipment, you also manage fleet throughout the city.
Yes, police and fire have their own individual managers, but everything is overseen by me as director of public works.
And how do you see the future of our fleet management?
I think our fleet management has an upside to it. We've increased it substantially. We make sure that all the vehicles are up and running, and I think it's only going to get better.
And what grade would you give the decision that we made a couple of years ago for this leasing and exchanging of the vehicles so that we wouldn't have to pay for the end of the life of the vehicle?
I think it was a great economic decision for the city. It gives us better use of vehicles over time.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Marty Mays. Marty Mays, you're born and raised in Orange.
Yes,
Product scholarship, football scholarship to Rutgers University, where you played football,
yes.
and then on to a number of towns where you've worked in public works and in management, and then we have you back here in the city of Orange Township.
I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to do this job because I get to try to make it better for the residents of this town and specifically the kids, which is important. I love giving back to the town where I'm from.
That's what it's all about. Department of Public Works. I'm here with Director Marty Mays. Please take advantage of the information that is given to you. Please reach out and call. We're trying to build a stronger community, a more informed community. The only way to do that is if we hear from our residents. I'm Mayor Dwayne Warren. Thank you for listening.